okay, this is where it gets a little sketch. Exmedia, it was cool, but I love them. They are my home. Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my November wrap up for you guys. And I think that this month has been my most successful reading month of my entire life. So I am so excited. In the month of November, I read 12 books, 5 were audiobooks, and the remainders were physical books on my Kindle. And I am so excited to just get into everything and talk with you guys about it. So without further ado, let's just hop right in. The first book that I read was My Roommate is a Vampire, and this book was honestly just a fun time. I rated it 3.5 stars and I had a good time. Was it cringy? Yes. Was it cheesy? Yes. Was the premise like kind of far-fetched? Absolutely. But did I have a great time? Yes. So this book is about Frederick, and he is a vampire who has just kind of woken up from something, and he is inquiring for a roommate. He finds Cassie to teach him the modern ways because he's been, you know, away from society for hundreds of years. And so this book just kind of explores the dynamic of Cassie and Frederick together. Frederick adapting to modern life, like a little love story, and then also like Cassie's life just kind of falling apart but then being put back together. I will say that Cassie's art style that was described in this book I found very entertaining and like very unique. I definitely was like intrigued when she'd like make these like paintings and then like plaster garbage all over them, like mixed media. It was cool. I don't want to say too much about it, but it was just like, it was fun. Like it was just fun. The next book that I read in the month of November was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I read Fourth Wing because I wanted to have a good time. I was like, let's have a good time. It'll be easy. It'll be fun. It'll be good for my brain. And honestly, it was. Was it amazing? No. But did I have a good time? Yeah. This book? Questionable. I don't know. I feel like it was just way too long. Not a lot happened in like my opinion. Like there was a lot of just kind of like repetition and like setup, but also like not setup. I don't really know how to like describe it. I rated it 2 stars. I know. I'm so sorry guys. I am, but I was listening to an audiobook. I could tell the writing was weird. Like I just like it wasn't an enjoyable listening experience. There was too much repetition. I wasn't really invested in the story. I was just kind of like annoyed at some of the things that were happening. Do I have questions? Yeah, but am I dying to pick up the next book? Not really. Additionally, I said this book was too long, but there was no reason for it to be as long as it was. Like, why was it 28 hours and 16 minutes? This thing, I think Rebecca Yarros was saying that it was like 280,000 words. Insane. Insanity. Or interesting to say about it, other than I was disappointed by literally everything. Even the dragons. I loved the dragons in the first book. The dragons was what like carried me in the first book. I loved Taryn and like his grumpiness and Andarna. I hated Andarna in this book. And the plot twists, I called all of them except for one. And that's all I'm going to say about it. The next book I read was A Natural History of Dragons. This book was an interesting time. Now this book I was really excited to explore, jump into, and just like fall in love with. And I did for the first 21%. First 21% was like a 4.5. Like it was amazing. I loved it. And then the story just like stopped. Like it stalled out. And I was like, what is going on here? And basically at the end of the day, I rated it, I think it was 1 star. I have my handy dandy iPad here with like my Goodreads. I rated it 2 stars. And I struggle because the main character just really lost her spunk and her voice. It just kind of turned into a natural history of misogyny and politics. There wasn't a lot of dragons. And it was, yeah, I don't want to say too much more because I'm done with this book. But it goes up from here. I promise you, it goes up from here. The next book that I read was on my Kindle, and that was Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey. Now, this was my first Tessa Bailey book that I actually finished. I started It Happened One Summer, and then for a very petty reason, I DNF'd It Happened One Summer when the phrase "okay boomer" was used unironically, and I couldn't do it. I was like, bye guys, see you later. Like I couldn't. And I know that's like really petty, but it was what it was, and I did what I did. So whoops. This book was actually a lot of fun. It's about Sumner, who is a hockey player from Canada who's about to lose his green card, and he would be taken off the team, but he's about to get scouted for the NHL. So the whole hockey team convinces our female main character, Britta, to marry Sumner. Now, this was a marriage of convenience. It was a lot of fun. There were like some sweet moments, like when she made broccoli cheddar soup, I was like, this is adorable. But yeah, it just goes into their kind of like traumas and insights and communication, and then they fall in love. That's pretty much it. It was a short novella. It took me like 3 hours to read, 3 or 4 hours, like something along those lines. Like it was fast, quick, easy. I will say it did drag a little bit on like the kind of like communication end of it. Like I was a little bit frustrated with one of the characters, but overall, like it was short, it was spicy, it was a good time. Like I don't really have a lot to say about the short novella. And for that book, I rated it 3 stars. The next book that I read was the long-awaited conclusion to the Brightfall series by Ashley Herring Blake, and that is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. This book was average for me. I rated it 3 stars. I think that there was just no topping in this entire series the brilliance and the magic that was The Lila Green Doesn't Care. It truly was like one of my favorite books, and you can't compete. I enjoyed Stevie and I enjoyed Iris, but there were little things when I was reading the books that kind of bugged me, especially the way that Iris was talking about herself. And I did find that there was a lot of telling and not showing, but it was okay. Iris Kelly Doesn't Date is about Iris Kelly, and she is one of the friends from the Bright Falls group. She is a struggling writer. She just closed her paper business and she's a little bit lost in life and needs some romance. Stevie is a playwright and Stevie is an actor and she's in a play. Stevie and Iris have a disastrous first hookup. They don't think they're ever going to see each other again, and they end up playing the leads in Stevie's play and fake dating to give Iris some romance and Stevie some confidence in the bedroom. The next book that I read was the Stardust Thief. Now, I don't want to give too much about the story away because it truly unfolds so magically before your eyes. I even picked up the Fairy Loot exclusive edition of this book on like eBay for like $20, which was insane. First of all, look at these purple edges. And then there is art in here and under the dust jacket. Are you kidding me? Now, I went into this book thinking it was a completed series. This book is not a completed series. The next book I think comes out this year. And I was like, what the hell? Because I just want to gobble this entire series up. Like, I don't want to say anything about it. But basically there are magical djinn who are kind of vanished. Magic isn't there anymore. We have a merchant who sells magical relics, her bodyguard. And then we also have a prince who is very, I don't know how to describe him. He's very soft. He's not a warrior. He's not a djinn killer. And they kind of go on an adventure to find a magical relic. Yep. I rated this one, I think 3.5 stars. I had a great time. I did find it a bit long, but I think that was just me personally reading it like really slowly because I had like a lot of things going on with uni. So I was kind of like stuck at some parts for like really long time. And I can't tell if that's because the book was there or if that was just me like only listening to like 5 minutes at a time. So 3.5 stars, but I cannot wait to see where this series goes. I need the next book right now. The next book is Flawless by Elsie Silver. Now this series, I'm like death gripping these books because I'm in love. I've never been happier. I needed an escape this month. I needed this series more than I needed anything in my entire life. Like I needed characters to grab onto. I needed characters to fall in love with. And I just needed a town to feel at home in. And that is what Flawless gave me. This book in particular follows Rhett, who is a bull rider, and Summer, which by the way, when I was reading this, kind of backed just off of It Happened, Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey. I kept reading Summer as Sumner for like a solid like beginning chunk, and then I like got my head in the right place, I guess. I don't even know. I want to go in. I want to live in this small town Alberta. Also, she's a Canadian author. Let's go. This is about Rhett. He is a bull rider, and then Summer is his agent. So, well, not his agent entirely. She works for his management social media presence agent shenanigans, and she gets assigned to babysit him after he gets canceled for something, which honestly made me giggle. Like the reason, like you find out. I want you to have that moment, besties. But it was just so fun. And I actually got a signed copy of this book because I ordered, wait, I need to show you this first before I get into anything else. I got a signed copy from a small bookstore, and I actually got the other books 2 through 5 in the special indie published special editions, which went out of print like in the summer. So I was so excited to grab this month, and I'll talk about them shortly. I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. I have nothing more to say. Speaking of those indie published special editions, this was the next book that I read. I think this is my current favorite in the series, but also Flawless is where we started. But this one, Willa, is my favorite human. This book is a single dad with the most adorable little boy in the entire world, and Summer's best friend Willa from the first book, and she is his nanny, and then Cade and Willa, and just, I think what melted my heart with this book was just how adorable Willa is with Cade, or with Luke, Cade's son, and how Cade observes them together. And like, there are so many tropes in here. There's so many. Like when Cade takes care of her, I can't. This series has my heart. I have made myself a little home in Chestnut Springs on Wishing Well Ranch. And I don't know what to say. I think I gave this one like 4.5, 4.25, something like that, like introduced to her writing style, because in the following books, I'm in love. I've never been happier. So I think I give this one 5 stars and this one like 4.5. I go back and forth, but I love them. They are my home. Back to what this book is about though. It's about Cade, and he runs Wishing Well Ranch. He's the eldest brother. He is grumpy, and he has a son from a previous relationship, and Willa is Lucas's nanny, and they fall in love. That's my plot. That's my summary. That's it. That's all. Read the series. Next, we're going to talk about A Curse for True Love and A Ballad of Never After. These were both audiobooks. I'm going to talk about them together because we're going to talk about them together. I rated both of them 3 stars, and I think that the big thing that I learned about this series is you have to be a character-driven reader. I am a character-driven reader. I love my characters. I love my characters. But this book series, because I didn't fall in love with these characters, I didn't really connect with them, I did struggle a little bit because it is a very long series. Well, okay, it's not very long series. The books felt long because not a lot is happening in each book. I'm currently on the 3rd book in the series just so I can complete it. I've already read 2. It's like a 9-hour audiobook. Like, I'm just gonna go through it quickly. But the 3rd book starts off at part 4, so which means there's 2 parts in each of these books, and things are a little bit slow. The magic is cool, but the fashion in this series is insane. Stephanie Garber, I need to become a fashion designer because I need to see the looks that you have described for these characters, especially, oh gosh, what is her name? She's a Fate. The Unwed Bride, whatever her name is, her fashion, her tattoos, obsessed. But other than that, I'm obsessed with that one singular character in the fashion in this book, but I just didn't feel like there was enough story being told in each of the books, in my personal opinion, to keep me super intrigued because I didn't connect with the characters. Basically, the first book in the series is about a girl named Evangeline. She has lost her dad, who used to run a curiosity shop, and so she's kind of been taken in by her stepmother and her stepsister Marisol. And Marisol ends up kind of taking Evangeline's love, and so in order to stop the wedding of Marisol and her previous love, she makes a deal with the Fates, which are people that you will get introduced to, and the story just kind of tumbles from there. The consequences of that, how things move. Oh, a prophecy? Like what? I don't know. I definitely see potential in this series for other people. It just didn't work for me. The second to last book that I read in the month of November was Powerless by Elsie Silver. I'm sorry, but these mirror independent covers, indie special editions, are beautiful. Like, I have them stacked up because I have books 2 through 5, I already said, stacked up on my nightstand just so I can see them. Because I love them. They make me happy. This book, however, I think I rated it 3 stars. I enjoyed this book, but I knew going into it I wasn't gonna love it. This book is about Jasper, and he's not one of the Court Eaton boys, but he was raised by them. And it's also about Salome, who is a ballerina. And I don't know, I enjoyed this book, but I have a few things to say about it. The first thing I'm gonna say is I am not a friends to lovers girly. That is not my plot. I still have yet to read People We Meet on Vacation. Where is it? There it is. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, because it's friends to lovers and I'm afraid. They really loved each other. They did. And I feel like we were just like really jumped into like these characters who knew each other so well. And I loved parts of it. Like, I loved parts of their road trip. I love the spice, but some parts I was like, like it was a bit drawn out in some places. But I still loved this world. I still loved seeing my characters from the first 2 books. And I knew that this wasn't gonna be my favorite. So this book's about Jasper. He's a hockey player. He's grumpy. Well, he's not grumpy. He's very private. He doesn't like eyes on him. He has a bit of a traumatic past. something happened, and now he kind of was familyless, and he got taken in by the Eaton brothers and got raised by Harvey, and he got raised on the ranch, and now he's a big time NHL hockey player. We also meet Salone, who was, okay, this is where it gets a little sketch. Salone is the Eaton brothers' cousin, but Jasper grew up with the Eaton brothers, so they're like not blood related, but they kind of grew up as cousins, which is where it gets like a little finicky, a little funky. But just push that out of your head. Like, we're just like really just like shove it away. Harvey will make jokes about it, but that's okay. Anyway, Salone's life falls apart on her wedding day. Jasper saves her. They go on a road trip and everything is happy. I love it. But it's not my favorite book. But I will say, I think that if it was coming off of like any other book, it would have been higher, but it was coming off of Heartless as well. And Heartless is my ride or die. So in this series thus far, but I just started Reckless like literally this morning, like at 8:30. I was like, Kindle time, Reckless, let's start it. Winter Story, which we'll get into in a different video. Powerless. If you take one thing away, I know they're not in order, please ignore that. It's bothering me too, but if you take anything away from this video, it's that you should read these books. We've reached the final book of things that I've read in November. I'm in my cowboy romance era, so the last book that I read was Alive and Wells, and this is actually an indie published book by Bailey Hanna. Now, I enjoyed this book, but I have some things just to say quickly before we get into it. First of all, check the trigger warnings. Please, 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 please check the trigger warnings. She very kindly put them in the bottom of the Goodreads description for this book, and it does have domestic violence. Now, I will say, I have definitely said in the past that I do not read about abuse or assault or anything like that, because it's just something that I prefer not to read. I use reading for escape, and that just like isn't something that I want to read about. Obviously, there are exceptions to this. Like, I know like Reese and Akamath has some things that happen, but typically I shy away from it. However, I had seen this author on TikTok and I had really wanted to give it a go and this book a go from some of the quotes that she posted, and I'm happy that I did, but I have some things to say about it. First thing I want to say, check the trigger warnings. Second thing, overall, I enjoyed this book. It was 3 stars. I had some knockouts, but then everything else paled in comparison to these babies. But so first, our main character, Cicely, bravely leaves this abusive relationship, and she ends up getting hired to help on a cattle ranch, and none other than Austin Wells works and owns that cattle ranch with his other brothers. I will say that this book was a little bit insta-lovey for me. Like, she flees this relationship, she meets him, and they're both like immediately like, whoa, the other person's attractive. And I think it was like Austin's like first perspective chapter where he was already like kind of like undressing her, and then I was kind of like, this is a little fast for me personally. But if you love insta-love and if you love that, then like go ahead. And I will say that I did finish the book. I did enjoy it. There were sweet moments, there were spicy moments. It was a good book. Like, it was a nice time. I think that I struggled with it a little bit, number one, because there was domestic violence in it that I was, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, this is here, and it is present throughout the entire book, kind of like looming over you. But it was nice to see these two characters kind of fall in love and like accept that they are both finding a home, if that makes sense. But I do see potential for more books in this series, because this was only book 1 in a series that she is starting with the ranch hands and like that. Like, there was like a bit of a found family there, but I think that for myself, just after reading the Chestnut Spring series that I won't shut up about, it just like fell a little bit short because I'm just so in love with another country romance at the moment. But I'm looking specifically at Denny. Denny, I'm looking at you because I want to read your book with Cass. That's all I'm saying. It's a bit insta-lowy. I see potential for a great found family. 3 stars. Sweet. Spicy. That's the conclusion. So, of the physical copies that I have, this is what I read. I did read all of these ones on my Kindle though. And then I audiobooked this one. So I read 12 books in November. Insane! And I read a lot of new favorites, especially this series is definitely like a favorite. And I read some other really good books, some novellas. It was a lot of fun. Please do follow me on TikTok. I have everything linked in the description as well for my Instagram, my TikTok, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.